We live in a highly complex world. Strategically navigating through constant changes and relentless forces is now the norm. Transforming challenges into opportunities takes serious focus and determination. It releases the real power within you. You are the heroes, the agents of change, making things happen, balancing growth with responsibility, making it real. Here's to you, the connectors, bringing together the right partners, building bridges, and unlocking insights. And you, the aces. You have that keen, strategic eye to make the decisions today that skyrocket your business tomorrow. The icons. You bring leadership and expertise to influence what happens next. And you, the idols. Breaking down barriers, reinventing processes, and redefining your role. Here's to all of you, the change makers, pioneers, legends. You protect the enterprise while maintaining a focus on growth, making it real. We celebrate you and cannot wait for what lies ahead, today and tomorrow. Real impact, real value, real results. Intelligent spend solutions from SAP.
COVID-19 is significantly impacting our lives and businesses, and no one can predict the full impact. It's more important than ever for organizations to be agile so they can boost resiliency and respond to dynamic business needs. I'm Nicole Miller with SAP Fieldglass. In today's session, we're joined by Tony Bussert, Director of Account Services in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. In her role, Tony manages all of our customer relationships in these geographies. And she's going to share with us today about what we're seeing overall in the market and how our customers are using SAP Fieldglass to support business continuity and agility. We hope this will give you some ideas about how you can help support your organization at this time. Hi, Tony, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Virtual greetings from London.
So good to see you. Tony, to kick off our discussion today, would you please talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the market, especially as it relates to how companies are being agile in their response to COVID-19?
Absolutely. You know, at this time when many of us are worried and isolated physically from each other in more ways or in many ways, and certainly more so than we ever have been, certainly from what I can remember, it's very heartening to see companies coming together to combat the current crisis. And they're doing this both individually, but also by coming together and pooling their resources. We're seeing some fascinating examples where companies are having to pivot at very short notice to answer business and country needs. For example, manufacturers are having to pivot to create medical equipment. We're seeing other organizations give services and products away, not just to those on the front line, but to other businesses, sister companies who are deeply impacted by COVID-19 across the globe. We are also seeing many great examples of companies sharing resources. For example, in Germany, Australia, and Switzerland, there are pharmaceutical companies who are coming together to create therapies to treat COVID-19 symptoms. Burberry has had to repurpose its trench coat factory in order to produce non-surgical gowns and face masks. AXA in France has given away 2 million face masks. Another example is American grocer Kroger is accepting furloughed workers from restaurant and wholesale retailer Cisco, which I think is a very innovative solution to repurposing your workforce during this time. We're also seeing hotels offer accommodation and rooms to healthcare workers to allow them to be closer to their place of work so that they're not having to take on commutes and risking further exposure to COVID-19 and keeping them safe. Restaurants who are being forced to shut down during this period are equally being innovative and creative with their skills and resources as well by providing meals to healthcare workers. And I think also one of the most wonderful things to come out of it is that we are seeing communities come together. Just here in the UK, over 1 million people have answered the government's call for social volunteers. The original target or hope was 250,000 people, and they thought that that would be ambitious. So I think you'll agree that getting 1 million people is something very special.
Absolutely. It's truly amazing to see the innovation and how communities and companies are coming together during this time. And as you mentioned, a few of those examples, some of our customers are actually joining these efforts as well. And just wanted to give a quick shout out to some of the things that they're doing to fight COVID-19, including GSK and Sanofi, two of the world's biggest pharmaceutical giants, joining forces to work on a vaccine to stop the spread of the virus, while GSK and AstraZeneca are combining their skills to create a COVID-19 testing lab at the University of Cambridge. And Lilly is conducting clinical testing of therapies for COVID-19. And also Philips is significantly ramping up production of hospital ventilators, and Dyson is working to produce ventilators now as well. And lastly, here in the US, Intel donated $1 million in USD for personal protection equipment. We're so honored to have some of these companies as our customers, and we know there's many more probably missed here, but just wanted to mention a few that have been in the headlines. So Tony, let's narrow the lens and talk about the external workforce specifically now. Can you share some of the new needs and challenges our customers are facing during this time?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it almost goes without saying that essential industries such as transportation, logistics, and healthcare are seeing a significant spike in demand. And therefore, access to labor and rapid onboarding is more essential than ever. Visibility or basic visibility into your workforce is also incredibly important to customers right now, in fact, to all organizations, especially those who are having to rapidly repurpose and reassign their workers to more urgent tasks. We're also, communication has always been a fundamental function of any business, but right now the ability and the need to clearly, accurately communicate with all manners of the business are more important than ever. And we're seeing some great examples where customers are using the Fieldglass application to communicate with their suppliers, their users, and most especially with their external workforce. There are some great examples where two-way communication is being used to check on the external workers to make sure that they are safe and well. Equally, there are good examples of mass communications going out as companies and organizations strive to keep their external workforce up to date with the ever-changing situation that we all find ourselves in.
That's great. And companies in the essential industries need to onboard workers very quickly. How has SAP Fieldglass helped to do that?
It's a great question. The reality is that our customers, beg your pardon, already have what they need through our existing connections to talent channels and our onboarding facilities. Our candidate portal is also something that our customers are using to be able to source directly and use their brand in the marketplace if they so choose. We have some really great examples of customers who are already using existing features and functionalities to really help them through this particular period based on their individual needs. For example, we have a healthcare customer who had a critical need to onboard specialists, technicians, and nurses in bulk And working with their MSP partner, they were able to enable some uploads and some features that allowed them to load data and expedite onboarding very, very quickly, allowing them to onboard 500 nurses in the space of just 1 week, which is really phenomenal going. Equally, very similarly, one of our banking customers had a need to answer the surge in demand for their call center. So they equally were able to expedite onboarding and ramp up their call center by 500 temporary workers in a very short space of time. We're also, in several countries, farmers are facing a very critical shortage in workers and labor, particularly those who depend on workers from abroad. And so we are working in one country with farmers and governments on a temporary, a short-term program that allows them very rapid access to labor to ensure that none of that food goes to waste. So that's a really good news story. There are all sorts of needs for rapid onboarding. If you think about just mail delivery or grocery delivery for some reason, those industries have obviously seen an exponential rise in demand. And the good thing about Fieldglass is that we do allow expedited onboarding in a standardized way that doesn't compromise on quality standards.
That's so great. So, Tony, we've often stressed the importance of gaining visibility into your external workforce. Let's dive into that topic a little bit more. Right now, visibility, especially as it relates to managing risk, is more important than ever. How are we seeing our customers use SAP Fieldglass to respond to COVID-19?
Absolutely, another great question. So we provide fundamental visibility. For example, who are my workers, where are they working, and when are they working? A lot of our customers are using our worker profile solution, which is a no-frills approach to really being able to ascertain where your workers are located. We're also seeing customers use the application to solve for very specific business needs. For example, we've got an insurance company who has added an onboarding item to allow them to ask their workers who are starting whether they've traveled within the last 30 or 60 days. We have a light manufacturing company who has added a custom field to their worker record, which allows them to very quickly be able to collect data around whether they're based remotely or from an office. And then we have a major retail customer who is taking this to the next step and asking more detailed questions of their incoming workers. For example, first of all, trying to get information from them around whether they have traveled to any high-risk areas since the beginning of January. And secondly, to ascertain if they do travel to an office location. And if they do, how frequently? And again, if they do, where are they traveling from? And all of this is helping them to mitigate that risk by collecting data and getting that visibility that they need.
And you mentioned the ability to reassign workers quickly being very important. Can you talk more about that a little bit?
Absolutely. Having a view of the total workforce is obviously now more important than ever. And being able to reassign workers to urgent tasks requires that visibility. For example, the manufacturers who are now pivoting to make medical equipment, that's a very real life example that we touched on at the top of this session. And in order to be able to quickly reassign your workforce to the more urgent work that they need, you also need visibility into what qualifications and certificates they have so that you can reassign them to the appropriate different work that you need them to do.
Great. And what new demands are being put on companies to manage external workers who are suddenly working remotely?
I think that's been a big shift for a lot of companies, and I think this has impacted everybody in one way or another. Certainly, there are some companies who've had to make that transition who don't have the ability to quickly have been able to do that. And the challenges around turning a workforce into a remote workforce are numerous. There are simple monitoring considerations such as, how do I log time? Where are my workers today? to other administrative considerations, such as how do I assign digital resources to my workers? How do I digitally authorize or sign documents? And so again, our customers are turning to our worker profile solution to also help them through this period, where, as we've discussed, it helps our customers to track not only where their workers are located from, but also what role they're doing. And ever increasingly, the access requests. As we all know, access is increasingly being limited to office locations. And perhaps even more critically, for asset tracking, for the equipment that you're needing to provide to the workforce now at very short notice, and to be able to track that to turn your workforce into a remote workforce. So it's been tough for a lot of companies, that's for sure.
Definitely a major shift, as you said, for so many. You shared so many great examples and have such great insight in working with our customers day to day. What advice would you offer to the external workforce leaders who are tuning into this session?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would like to point out again, and it's rather obvious, but it really does depend in what industry you're operating in, and sometimes even what country you're operating in. We're very well aware that there are some external workforce leaders who right now are all hands to the pump, having to really, really ramp up their sourcing at very short notice, and need that speed of access to labor. Whereas other external workforce leaders are dealing with a very difficult situation of potentially furloughing or having to reduce their workforce. I do think that regardless of the situation that you're faced with right now more than ever, it is a great time, believe it or not, to showcase how vital a role our external workforce leaders play within each of our organization. Not only have you been accountable for getting that visibility that your organization really needs right now, and to actively manage those workers, you have also been accountable for sourcing talent for your organization, specifically external talent, when they need it, where they need it, and how they need it. But I think possibly one thing to remember is that it's not just those functions that you play or those roles that you play within your organization, but you are also the guardians of the organization in terms of the role that you play around compliance and risk mitigation. So let's not forget all the efforts that you are making to maintain those incredible high standards within your organizations. I think I would also like to point out that the external workforce by its very nature is adaptable, creative, and agile. And I think that external workforce leaders have a real opportunity right now to innovatively use the skills and adaptability of their external workforce to rise to the challenge of the changing needs of their particular organization. So there's a lot in there. It's difficult times for everybody, but there are some pockets of opportunity for creativity and imagination too.
Most definitely. Lots of great pieces of advice in there. And, we've discussed the COVID-19 has caused some organizations to increase their external workforce. Do you think there will be a longer term impact on the field of external workforce management? Or will more people understand the importance of actively managing their contingent workers and services providers?
Yep, in short, I definitely do. 42% of workforce spend is on the external workforce. And that's a data point that we got from global research that we did in conjunction with Oxford Economics. And off the back of that, executives also told us that their external workforce is at the core of their enterprise. External workers contribute very meaningfully to business operations, and equally to enable them to have a variety of business outcomes. For example, business agility and speed to market are just two examples of those outcomes, and that is currently more important than ever. So yes, I do believe that there is going to be an increase in dependency on external workforce. And another data point that we can use to maybe leverage is that off the back of the 2008 recession, companies turn to the external workforce while during recovery to help businesses put themselves back together again. And we might have expected that to drop off once the economies had recovered, I beg your pardon. But we didn't see that. We did see a maintained and, if anything, increased dependence on that external workforce. And so I think that is one of the things that I do think will be an impact. I think another one that we are seeing is definitely around simplification. And I personally believe that this is quite a positive thing. We're seeing many examples of onerous internal processes being stripped right back to allow for efficiency and speed. And with any luck, I really do hope that this is one of the things that will stay around once this is all cleared over. I think also that, it's another thing to really come out of this is both organizations and individuals are now realizing that it's not so much where you get work done, it's that work gets done. And this is at the heart, this is the ethos of the external workforce. And so while I do think that we will see an increase in the dependence on external workers, I do think another side effect might in fact be that we see more individuals moving to become part of that external workforce. So lots of interesting things to be looking out for off the back of this. It's definitely a very, very difficult time for organizations, individuals, countries, and economies. I really do believe that by working through this together, we will come out of it all right. And that hopefully some of the examples we have used today, despite the very real realities, is that even in times of darkness, there's always a light that shines. Together, we'll get through this.
I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much for sharing such great insights and advice. The way work gets done continues to change and evolve no matter what is happening in the world. And we will get through this together, no doubt. Thanks again so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.